Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Hello, listener. It is your host, Lara Jane. And I am here with, I usually say a new best friend, but I have known Tabatha for a while. I've had readings with her and her significant other. So this is not something new, but the exciting part is she is so probably the most knowledgeable person I know about astrology. Just the time she spends getting new certificates and researching and training is impressive. So Tabatha, welcome to the show. How to get a hold of you and all that information's in the show notes. Our listener will be able to jump right in there. If they want a special reading or if they want to reach out to you, they can do that. But I want to jump right into this. How can we use astrology to help us on our personal development track and understanding ourselves? I think it's so important to really know why we do these weird things that everybody else thinks weird and it's natural. And we don't care what anybody else thinks, right? But we do need to understand ourselves. And I think that astrology is a key way of doing that. So Amanda, I call you Amanda. Hey, Tabatha. Like, I don't even know who you are, right? So Tabatha, tell us about astrology and why you chose to really take such depth and time to understand it. Because when you do that, it values me because I don't have to. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you for introducing me in that way. I'm honored to be here. So I have always had this question in my mind since I was a little girl. And that's what brought me to astrology. And that was why? Why to everything? Why to certain faiths? Where did they come from? And I went into the history and went further into the history. And what I found in Mesopotamia was astrology. It's one of the most ancient practices there are. So that really sparked an interest in me. And how to use that in your personal practice is actually just learning more about it and learning that we're more than just a sun sign. Now that's in many, many steps. But we want to learn. The first thing that I would suggest for anyone, we have to learn the big three instead of just your sun sign. And we take astrology in 2 steps and kind of learn the meaning behind that. And that does really help us understand ourselves quite a bit. And I found it's the most exact, accurate thing that I've ever studied.
Why do you think that more people don't know that there's more than just a sun sign? I mean, when you look at the newspaper, you have this 30 days of slide of year Leo and everybody born within these 30 days every year is exactly like you. And you feel like there's no individuality, but there's so much more depth. And how did we miss that?
Well, the thing is, in the 1930s, I believe it was in England, it came out with the first horoscope. And that was what became extremely popular. And that's what started all of this. Everyone just started to look at the sun sign. Now, in astrology, you can read just sun signs, but that's not what it's meant to be. It's a part of a whole picture. And that gives you maybe 10, 25% of who you are. But that is where it came from, the popularity with that, and then science debunking it because it's so general. That's why people are really turned off. Like, if you're a Gemini, you're two-faced. Or if you're a Sagittarius, you're supposed to be always jumping in and out of these relationships. And that's not truth at all.
So how do we find that truth?
Well, the first thing you can do, like I've told a lot of people, you have to go to astro.com and find out what your signs actually are. Pull it up, put your birthday, your birth time, birthplace, and put it in astro.com. And it's a free website that most professional astrologers use. And it'll pull up your whole chart. In the top, you'll see the ascendant, the sun sign, and then on the bottom, you'll see the moon. That's your first step. For any astrologer, that's what you want to learn.
So I did that many times, and I still didn't have a clue what any of it meant until you and I sat down and walked through my chart. So how can people understand it, whether they find a person to help them or research it? What is it that is the key to know when you're looking at that chart to make it make sense?
So, of course, the book, All You Need to Know About Astrology, that's a really good reference. An astrologer, we're around, but we're pricey. We can get very pricey. So All You Need to Know About Astrology is a great reference book, and it can explain those things for you. And then going down the rabbit hole of research, that is going to be the best thing that you can do. And the best thing about astrology is a book doesn't have all the answers. You write your big three down, like the sun, moon, and rising. But then you ask other people, what are their sun, moon, and rising? And then and those people ask others, and you begin to understand. Because in astrology, we're not like every sign has an element. Every sign has a modality. Every sign is and like there's certain houses where certain signs work better. So it's a language that we're piecing together, that a lot of it was lost in the Hellenistic era.
So in this book, does it walk you through it? Do you need to have access to the website to get your chart and the book, or can you get it all from one or the other?
So you can go on Google and just do astro.com. You can find that, but that's just going to show you what it is. That's just going to show you your sun, moon, and rising. It's a professional chart and, reading for charts and people that can read it. But astro.com, All You Need to Know About Astrology, that's something that you can order on Amazon.
And the link is in the show notes right now for the listener to take advantage of. And so is the astro.com. But when we do this, I know you have spent years studying, and not just what's in this book, but many, many depths of astrology. And I think when we were talking last, you were starting to talk about prior life astrology and how things, you can look beyond today in your astrology chart. And I know that I haven't come back for that reading yet, but I think with the depth of somebody who's really invested in learning this, that it really makes sense, unless you want to spend hours after hours learning, to just go get it done. Like, I'm positive, even though you said you're pricey, I'm positive you're less money than what you've spent learning it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My whole life is astrology, and it's what makes me happy. It gives me hope. It's like, I've always wanted to know, like, as little kids, we're like, why are we here? Astrology, like, if you really know how to learn it and read it, it will show you parts of your path and what you're supposed to learn in this lifetime.
Has it helped you with interacting with other people?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Oh yeah, it has. It has. Well, like we have the big three, right? So that's the sun, moon, and rising. And that's like our emotions, our vitality, and how we look at the world. That's the big three. That is just simplifying it. But if you look at Mercury, we all have a Mercury placement. It shows us how we can use our skills to communicate in a more effective way.
Does it help to know the other person's sign in communication, or what? Or 99% of the people aren't going to know the depth of what their Mercury sign is. So how would I, as a person that only knows my own personal communication style, learn to interact with somebody else? Because I'm thinking of our listener as that person in the corporate world that is working with people, they don't know their communication in depth, and you just kind of have to guess it. And you want to be as efficient as possible. But is there any tricks to figuring that out without going and go, where were you born? What time of day was that? Wait.
So the best way to learn that is to understand how you communicate. So I, for example, have Mercury in Sagittarius. I am a speed talker. I really don't mean to, but I'm aware of that. I want to speak about so many things all together. And I have to be mindful to talk slower. I have to be mindful that I have to keep at one subject at a time. And that helps me speak with other people in a better way. Just understanding how you can learn or communicate helps.
I like that, because if I know, I'm guessing, Tabatha, I probably should have got my chart out to look at it so I could remember what they all were, but I didn't. But I know for me, I'm very, I don't like a lot of detail. I don't know if that makes sense, but I like generalization. If you bog me down with detail, I start going glassy eyed. But you can give me a generalization and let me connect it to an experience in my life, and it's exciting. So if I understood that, in my brain, because I don't talk fast, it would be easier to slow down than to let someone tell me all the details and go, okay. And so now I'm bored to death.
So a really good way to do that for you, and I'm feeling like there's a lot of Saturn there, write things down as you're hearing them. Take notes, because that keeps you interested. So if we knew your Mercury sign, we could go further. But if someone was a Capricorn, Mercury in Capricorn, that would be someone that is wanting the facts, wanting to write the things down so they can look at that later on. So that's one thing that I would recommend that you do.
Is write things down. And I am if you were to take out of all the things that I think about me, my written communication is the least honed skill I own. Because if I try to take notes, I get so lost in, how do you spell that? Like, I don't know how to spell that. And let me just make it really sloppy and nobody will know I misspelled it. But at the same time, I do take pages of notes. As long as nobody can see them, I'm okay.
There you go. Yeah, little notes as it's going or recording someone, that can really help you, so you can rewind and go forward and rewind. Like when I do readings, I encourage them to do recordings because they are not going to keep up with me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know you gave me the opportunity to do that, but I chose not to because I knew I would never listen to it.
You knew me.
Like, I'm just going to write down what I can because I know I will never turn this on to listen to it. I save a lot of stuff because I think I might want to hear it again. And then I just don't make the time for it. But so for our listener, I have no idea, maybe they're born in November, maybe maybe their birthday is today. For that listener, how would we get them to understand their communication skills?
Like I said, astro.com, and pulling up the entire chart, and it has Mercury. And a simple way to figure out your Mercury sign is to pull that up, right? And if it's in Aries, for example, maybe break it down to the elements. We know that Aries is a fire sign. So fire burns through things quickly. So it has to be short burst of information. It can't be prolonged. So we can break that down for the element And then if it's cardinal, so Aries is cardinal, that means a beginning. So I really get excited about the new thing that's happening or whatever I'm learning, but I need it to be more exciting later so I can stay interested. So those
Yeah.
are things that you can do. And Mercury is all about learning. It's all about communication. It's all about your thinking. So if you understand that, that can help with communication, that can help with learning, that can help with a lot of confidence.
Interesting. Yeah, my sun sign is fire, but I don't know my Mercury one. And I was going to try to log in and find it for us so we could be more specific.
I noticed, but I
it
can
ain't
use
happening.
myself. I have.
Let's use
So
you.
I have
You know it.
Sagittarius.
Okay.
I have Sagittarius and Mercury. I want to know everything all at once. So I have to pace myself. So I'll give another example. If we have Mercury and Taurus, that's a lot easier because they take a long time to learn things. But it takes them, they talk slower, they think slower, they make their decisions slower because they mean what they do. It's a fixed sign and it's earth. They want to see it and they want to feel it. So based on the sign and the element, that can really help. And that's basically for every sign because we have signs all the way through our charts. It's not just Mercury.
What else can we learn about ourselves besides our communication that we could dig into?
Okay. Well, you talked about past lives that you were interested in, and that is really important. So the two very important kind of like life paths that we can see in our chart is our south node and our north node. And the south node represents our past life and the skills that we are born with in this lifetime. Things that we need to learn to come away from so we can go into the north node, what we've never experienced before as a soul. So those are very important points that no one really talks about in astrology. Unless you're like an astrologer, you're not going to know.
How do you get someone interested to even know those things? What, like if I was like, oh, well, I have a south node, what in the crap is that? Like, what does that mean to someone who hasn't studied it for a long time?
Well, I mean, you can look into past life readings in astrology. So past lives, when I do tarot, I do tarot readings. So I will just pull up their chart just to see how that goes. So I offer that with tarot and it helps with it. Now, if someone's wanting to get a tarot reading and I offer astrology, they don't understand what astrology is until I show them.
That makes
So
sense.
this is why we need to talk about it more because it's really not known unless they really know what astrology is. They're not going to be interested. It is a language.
So how would you explain astrology to someone who only knew sun signs? What would be the words to say, this is how much more you can learn about you? Because when I hear people, talk about other modalities that are so much more powerful than astrology, I know that person's only touching the surface of astrology. And so, and that's why I wanted you here is I've had a couple episodes where someone's like, well, yeah, this is way deeper than astrology. And I'm like, let's not bash astrology because we're looking at it from a surface level instead of a depth level. So how do you get someone excited to explore the depth of what astrology can bring?
Well, I mean, I think people don't understand that they follow it without even realizing it. Following the moon is astrology. Looking at the planets is astrology. The sun, the eclipses, it's all around us, but we're blind to it. I mean, I would really recommend to contact a good astrologer, like someone that really knows what they're talking about, or just looking into general books that can learn about that. But to get interested, they have to in themselves want to know more. They have to have that curiosity because it's a big commitment to learn all of this.
I think just that self-discovery. So as a
Mhm.
person in the corporate world that's just really given their whole life, mine, theirs, to that corporate world, that made decisions to not be at family events because work was so important, who's made decisions to ignore warning signs to their health because work was so important. For that individual that's just kind of at the burned out, don't know if they can keep going on. How can astrology help us turn that around and help us discover where our limits are? Because I think some of it's just getting the right guide rails of I can't cross
Oh,
this
yeah.
line anymore.
Well, well, in astrology, there's always an area in your life that will have challenge because we're talking about Saturn. Remember, I taught you a little about the energies of Saturn. He's our teacher, but he also tells us no. If I were to pull up someone's chart and they would ask me about specific things that's going on in their life, I'm going to look in that area of the chart because in a chart, it will show all areas of life. So just looking into that alone really does help people turn things around because it's no longer hopeless. A reason for what they're going through.
Does it help to know what the other person is, or is it enough to just know you?
Well, it helps with to know what they are, but it also helps to be sort of a guide and to show some understanding.
Hmm. Okay. So let's think for a minute. Well, let's take a break. And while we're on our break, let's think about how our listener, that busy professional who's just really tired, what steps can they take through using
Oh,
astro.com or calling Tabitha, or what can they do to better discover them? So we'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Lara Jane Coaching. You know you're ready to silence your inner bully voice. Let Lara Jane support you with coaching. To schedule an introduction call, go to larajanelayton.com.
Hey, listener, we're back. And so, Tabitha, what are the steps for our busy professional to gain that insight of who they are? Should they start with a chart, or should they start with somebody who can explain the chart and help them know where to look?
well, I would definitely recommend starting with a professional astrologer, even if it's like 30 minutes to explain what astrology is, the basics of their chart. That makes a huge difference. And then after that, I give homework to people. I encourage them to learn.
And that homework is, here's what your chart says. Here's the
Mhm.
places where you may want to discover more about you.
Mhm.
Which areas, I think for the communication area part is important. I'm thinking, is there an area that helps you understand your energy level? Like a morning person that loves to get lots done before noon, and afternoon you're sluggish, or vice versa. Is there one that helps you to know that part? Because I know that's a big difference of the people that I've worked with too.
Well, yeah, that is a Mars placement. And in your houses, that would be the sixth house, and that would be, I believe, the first house in astrology. Those separate houses I can look at and kind of give guidance. I'm not a profession, a doctor or anything, but I can show things that I can help them with.
Well, our listener knows we're not medical professionals. And that I don't think anybody out there assumes that astrology is going to replace their doctor. But for that one
Mm-mm.
person that might, this does not replace your doctor.
No, it does not.
So for the Mars sign, that's going to talk about my energy levels.
Yes, it will.
Which ones, what would they mean? Like if I have where would my Mars live if I was sluggish in the morning or if I was full of energy in the morning?
So Mars in Cancer would be a little bit more sluggish because it's more emotional. Now, if you had more energy, it would be Mars in Capricorn because Mars wants to get things done and Saturn has the discipline for it. So Mars in Cancer is, I need to feel motivated to feel better. I need to have my emotions in a very positive way in order to be less sluggish. Or if I have Mars in Gemini, something has to interest me intellectually for me to really want to get things done.
That's interesting because it would help you to motivate yourself if you knew what it was.
Mhm.
I think sometimes we kind of think we know everything about ourselves and surprise ourselves all the time. So it's nice to have that added piece of, I'm struggling with understanding what I want. Here's something I can look at to kind of like remind me, RJ, do not do this in the afternoon. You want to do this in the morning because you're going to be more inquisitive there, and making sure that we take advantage of the things we should know about ourselves. You think that after 30, 40, 50, however many years old you are, that you would understand those things. But sometimes we're so familiar with ourselves that we don't try. And I think it helps to expand the knowledge of the why. And I love that you, as an inquisitive child and forever, what child doesn't ask why? And then we all ask why, but then our parents go, yeah, shut up. Don't say that. Why do you, like, why? Like, quit asking that. So it kind of gets beat out of us. Our parents get so tired of our inquisitiveness that you eventually silence. And when you stop asking why, you stop exploring the possibilities of life. And how do we get back that desire for the possibilities?
So, the only thing the only thing that to learn astrology is to be curious and to want to know more, because astrology is situated around all of the holidays. It is situated out around all of the equinox and the solstice, the moon, all of it. It's astrology, just people are not putting it together. It's separated.
I don't know of very many people at all that know anything other than their sun sign. I really don't think. I think the population is very low. And even though I've had my chart, and even though I have it written down somewhere, I couldn't tell you what my other ones were without having re-looked at the chart. And if I want to be a better me, I need to pay more attention to those things so that I can give myself the right stimuli to improve. Because if you give you wrong, you're going to not improve. I guess you can only improve no matter what, right?
Right. And knowledge is power.
Yeah. All right. Well, I really think that what we've talked about is finding out your why, for sure. Why am I like I am? And if you question at all, like, why do I feel so bad if somebody doesn't include me in a lunch meeting when I probably didn't really need to be there, but I felt excluded? Why does that matter? Why does it matter? That's in your chart. Why am I not compatible with so-and-so? Why do we clash heads and butt heads so much? That's in your chart. Why am I sluggish in the morning? That's in your chart. And these things, you don't have to feel guilty for caffeinating or for all these other things that we are bridging the gaps for. But as you understand yourself, you're better able to put systems and processes in place. And I know that sounds too techy and it's going to come naturally and you don't actually have to write it down, but those things are going to come naturally. If I do this in the morning, I am going to feel better all day. And know that because it's in your stars, it's in the things that we look at. And so taking that next step of, do you want to know more about you? Do you want to know why? And here's the path. Call Tabatha.
Oh, thank you so much.
No,
I'm here.
I just don't know how you could do it without, because there's so much learning. And I can look at it and I can still go, this doesn't make a lot of sense, because I haven't had the years of training and understanding. And not only do you have that training and understanding, but you help other people. And you know that the best way to learn is to teach. And every time you go and you're exploring another person's chart, you're learning more depth. Why could I even trust myself to write my own chart when I got you? Really, what would you say would be your last words of wisdom for our listener on getting their why?
I did want to mention that there is a famous psychologist. His name, and I know he's more than just a psychologist, Charles Jung, or I can't say his name right. He actually studied astrology and put it in his, looked at his patients and studied astrology. It was taboo because you're not allowed to do that. But in the later years, he mentioned that he did that. And he's the one who created psychology. So there's books on archetypes. He's created that. And that can also help with learning astrology, archetypes.
Is that the name of the book? Is Astrology Archetypes or?
Astropsychology by Charles Jung. So there's a lot of astrology is really connected to psychology as well. So it can also bring clarity and healing in so many different ways. It's more than a sun sign. And the last thing that I do want to mention is we are more than just the sun sign. We have so much more to offer. And the more we learn, the more we will grow.
Yes. You cannot grow without learning. Whether you're learning what not to do or you're learning what to do, there is learning and there is growth in everything we do. And focused and planned learning is so much more rewarding because there's a benchmark that like if you just learn because you fell down a few too many times, you don't realize that you quit falling down. But if you chose I got to figure out how to stop falling down, and then it's conscious, then you make such a huge difference on your own personal self because you see the difference. Yeah, so many times we can change and we don't recognize it.
That's true.
So, listener, Tabatha and I are not medical or mental professionals. We are here for entertainment purposes. The full disclosure is in the show notes for your review. Tabatha, thank you for joining the show. And listener, stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss a next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.